A friend of mine I'm about to talk about is named Thuck. He was a year below me, so it wasn't until around the start of my second year that he moved into our dorm room. Tall, skinny, sharp-looking face. At first, he seemed open, easygoing, always joking around. But after about half a year, something felt off. His personality almost completely flipped. Around that time, he started sleeping all the time. Any time you saw him, he was out. We once invited him to play LOL with us. Got into a jungle gang. Waited for our support. Nothing. No response. When we turned around, he was already asleep. Still sitting there, head tilted back, quietly snoring. At first, we didn't think much of it. Everyone's got their own habits. But then one time, the whole room went back home, and only Thuck stayed. I came back early, called him to meet me at the bus station and help carry my stuff. I waited 30 minutes, nothing. He never showed. I had to take a motorbike taxi back. Got there, and he was still asleep. The worst part, he didn't even lock the door. Luckily, everyone in the room was decent, so nothing was missing. The next day, we sat him down and talked to him. No yelling, but people were clearly annoyed. That was when Thuck finally said it, why he'd been like that. He said something was following him, a kid. First, his background. His grandmother sold paper offerings, and when he was little, his parents would leave him with her. A few days before a ritual for wandering spirits, she got overloaded with orders. The house was packed, no space left, so she moved some of the paper figures out onto the porch. Thuck was 5, didn't know any better. Even late at night, past 9, he'd still go out there and play. His grandmother was inside, busy painting eyes and mouths onto the figures. Didn't notice him. He saw them and walked over, started touching them, pulling at their clothes, just looking. Then suddenly, one of them dropped straight to the ground. He panicked, thought he'd get yelled at. So he bent down, picked it up, kept glancing back at the door to see if she was coming out. He stood it back up, leaned it against the others. Then something felt wrong, like something was pushing it away. The moment he let go, it fell again. He tried again, and that's when it happened. He froze. Then he wet himself, because behind the figures, something showed up, a face slowly coming into view. It told him that spot was its place, then pointed. Told him to move the figure somewhere else. He said it looked like a kid, but not right. No eyebrows, no teeth. Eyes and mouth just black, completely black, hair still wet. And from its ears, this thick liquid, the color of shrimp paste, slowly dripping down. It crouched there among the figures, head tilted up, staring straight at him. From that moment on, he didn't know anything anymore. It told him to pick it up and walk. Thuck said the kid had a nasty mouth as they walked. It kept talking, cursing, wishing death on some family named Ong Sen. Said if it ever saw them, it would strangle them, gouge their eyes out, wipe them all out. When Thuck's arms got tired and he tried to put the figure down, it dragged itself behind him, forced him to pick it back up, keep going. If he didn't, it would shove his head straight into the bushes, tear his face open. By then, they were near the hedge by the neighbor's house. Just a little further, and it would be the latrines, and the Bioga's pit behind his grandmother's place. If she hadn't found him, he might have ended up in there, and no one would know. His grandmother heard the dogs barking. Not normal barking. The kind when they see something they shouldn't. She looked around. He wasn't inside. Panic hit instantly. She ran out into the yard. Then she saw it, a trail of liquid, from the porch all the way to the back garden. But when it reached the path near the neighbor's side, it just stopped. Gone. She rushed back in, grabbed a kitchen knife, a flashlight, then went back out, moving through the garden, slashing at branches, making noise, trying to scare whatever was out there. Then the light hit the base of a tree, and she saw him. Thuck was standing there, holding the paper figure, face turned toward the tree, whispering something under his breath. She didn't hesitate, raised the knife, slammed it into the trunk, right next to his head. At the same time, she yanked the figure out of his hands and threw it away. He jolted, like something snapped. His whole body went cold, his eyes unfocused as he stared at her. Under the flashlight, her face looked pale, almost like one of those paper figures that alone made him break down, crying, wetting himself again. She thought something was wrong with him, grabbed him, dragged him back inside, changed his clothes. Then she saw his face, scratched up, like something had clawed him. Right then, she knew. That same night, she went to the chicken coop, caught a rooster, slit its throat, collected the blood, mixed it with raw rice, then burned several yellow talismans, the kind people bring back from funerals and stick onto coffins. She had plenty of those. She poured the ashes and incense from the family altar into the bowl, mixed everything with her hands. By the end, both her hands were completely soaked in blood. She carried it out to the porch, started throwing it, handful after handful, everywhere, her voice rising as she shouted into the dark, "Whoever comes begging for food at my house in the middle of the night, here, I'm giving you rice and meat. Come eat it." When she was done, she turned off the lights, shut the door, washed up, then went to bed holding Thuck close, told him not to be afraid, said anyone who touched her grandson would pay for it. What she made in her line of work was called blood bait, like poison bait, but meant for wandering spirits. After lying there for a while, Thuck started hearing it chewing right outside. She stayed quiet, hoping whatever had been following him would take the bait. It wouldn't kill it, but it would scare it off, keep it away from her family, because the mixture had ashes from their altar. That night, when Thuck slept, his eyes wouldn't fully close, and even now, it's still like that. Whenever he sleeps, his eyelids only half shut, the whites showing like they're rolled back. They thought it was over, thought his grandmother had driven it away, and Thuck stopped thinking about it. But when he went back to live with his parents, the family of 5 suddenly received devastating news. That day, he and some neighbor kids were playing hide and seek behind the house. There was a ditch back there, and beyond it, a thick cluster of chinaberry trees. They played until it got dark. On the last round, everyone hid while his older brother went to look for them. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Still nothing. No footsteps. No one getting found. They called out to him. No answer. After a while, they figured he'd just bailed on them. Left them all there, so no one kept playing. Everyone went home. When Thuck got back to the yard, his mother asked, where his brother was, he said he'd already gone back. But he wasn't inside, not outside, nowhere. Something didn't feel right. Thuck ran back out to the ditch, calling his brother's name. He even climbed across into the trees, searching through the dark. Nothing, no sign of him. Soon the whole family went out looking. The neighbors heard and came to help. They searched everywhere they could think of. Still nothing. That's when someone said it. Maybe he fell into the ditch. A few men climbed down and started feeling around in the water. It came up past their thighs. Even during the day, you couldn't see the bottom clearly. At night, it turned dark, almost black, hard to see anything. They kept searching like that for nearly 2 hours. By around 10 at night, there was still no sign of him, but his mother stayed calm, kept calling his name, hoping he was just hiding somewhere, that he'd come out. Then someone up in the chinaberry trees noticed something near the edge of the ditch. A metal drum lying there, empty, but inside 2 small feet sticking out. Everyone rushed over. The drum was taller than an 8-year-old, taller than his brother, and somehow his brother was inside it, upside down. When they pulled him out, his body was already cold, soaked from head to chest. There was only a shallow layer of water inside the drum, but his head had been submerged. That was how he died. Trapped upside down, unable to get out. The sides were too high. During the funeral, Thuck saw something, a strange child, crouching in the yard, staring straight at the coffin. When it noticed Thuck looking at it, it smiled, a twisted, almost mindless smile. Later, he told his grandmother. She asked if he remembered what it looked like. He said yes. No eyebrows, no teeth. Eyes and mouth completely black, hair soaked, clinging together. It took her a long time to remember, but then it came back to her. Years ago, the villagers had pulled a child's body from that same ditch. Just a few nights before, the kid had gone out catching rats and slipped, drowning there. When they found him, his body was already swollen. In his mouth, there was still a rat. No one really knew what happened down there. No one. The boy had no family. No one to claim him. The place he used to stay later turned into Ong Sen's pig pen. The villagers buried him out in the cemetery, but people still talked. Said that sometimes, late at night, something could be seen near the edge of the ditch, catching rats, eating them. When Thuck got to that part, even he looked shaken. His brother died young. Not a normal death, and things like that don't just go away. Not even a week after the funeral, they had already seen him come back. In that house, Thuck had been the closest to his brother. Their parents kept some of his clothes, newer ones, for Thuck to wear, and that's when things started to happen. During the first week after his brother's death, early one morning, the whole family was already up, preparing food to welcome relatives for the ritual. While the adults were busy outside, Thuck sat alone inside, eating porridge. He sat right across from his brother's altar. He couldn't eat much, 1 spoonful. He held it in his mouth for minutes before swallowing. Outside, it was still dim. Inside, the lights were on. The contrast was sharp. There was no way he could mistake what he saw as he ate. His eyes wandered. Next to the altar was a window facing the back of the house. One side closed, one side open. And then he saw it, a pale face right up against the window, looking in. At first, Thuck didn't recognize who it was, but sitting there, facing the altar, lit by candlelight, that same pale face, he froze. The bowl slipped from his hands and shattered on the floor. His brother couldn't come inside. He could only stand out there, staring in. Thuck was still a kid. He didn't understand. So he just asked, "You're back already?" His brother didn't answer normally. His eyes rolled back, all white, staring toward the altar. And when he spoke, it sounded like someone choking on water. "My shirt. Give it back, my shirt." The shirt he was talking about was the one Thuck was wearing. A short-sleeved shirt passed down from his brother. In that house, they never thought much about things like that. His mother heard the bowl break and rushed inside. Thuck pointed toward the back, said his brother was outside. She opened the window and looked. Behind the house was just a narrow drainage ditch, no one there. When she turned back and asked, she finally understood he had come back for his clothes. People who drown, they're always cold, and someone who dies like that can't step inside, can only stay out by the door. When his grandmother heard, she frowned. When they were alive, the two brothers were close. They cared about each other. And when he died, the family had already wrapped him with clothes properly. So why would he come back asking for more? She thought for a moment, then grabbed a bundle of straw, took the family dog, and went to the spot where he had died. The metal drum, she tied the dog to a chinaberry tree nearby, then lit the straw on fire. After that, she held the flame close to the drum, heating it, banging on the metal sides, making noise. The dog, which had been crouched near the drum, suddenly snapped its chain, pulled hard in one direction, and started barking. 3 barks at a time, then silence again and again. The grandmother stopped, looked toward the direction the dog was pulling at, then told the family to go back and turn the brother's altar to the left, press it against the wall, set it at a right angle to the main ancestral altar. Don't let him face the door anymore. Whatever drowned out there was still around. If it saw him come back, it would keep messing with him. That night, she had a dream his brother came back, standing outside the door, crying, still wearing a white t-shirt and those palm tree shorts, saying their parents didn't love him, that he died in misery. She asked him what happened. He said something had been hiding inside the drum. It dragged him down and drowned him. Said it mistook him for Thuck because of the clothes they wore. After a while, someone came and took him away, someone from the family. Said because they had turned the altar that morning. The two of them were finally able to find each other. Before continuing, Thuck paused to explain something, what people call being followed by something. He said it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. No one gets followed for no reason. First, that person has to go through something tied to the other side. Maybe they witnessed a deadly accident. Maybe they attended a funeral. Or sometimes they grew up around someone who dealt with spiritual things. Those cases are worse. The risk is higher. What people call a connection is like between two living people, a kind of link only they can feel between the dead, or between the dead and the living. It works the same way, like his brother and someone from the family who came to take him. That was a connection between two spirits. A lot of people think being followed by a ghost is simple. like it just happens, but they don't realize how rare it is. Even between living people, it can take years to find someone you truly connect with. 18, 20 years, sometimes more, and that's in the same world. Between the living and the dead, it's even more uncertain, more distant, harder to believe. And what they call a connection here, it's not love, not marriage. It's more like a strange familiarity, like meeting someone and feeling like you've known them before. But between the living and the dead, that kind of connection is rarely good. When something follows you, it's closer to punishment than anything else. Some people talk about spirits touching them, messing with their bodies. Thuck shook his head at that, said spirits don't care about physical bodies. They don't feel anything for that, and if you think about it, most of those stories come from women. He said he asked around. Most men never experienced anything like that. The number of male spirits isn't higher. If anything, female spirits can be more aggressive. So why ignore men? Some people say they feel hands touching them in their sleep, moving from head to toe, stirring something inside them. But that, he said, is something else. It comes from the mind, from the body itself. It happens to both men and women, sometimes even stronger in women. The body has its own cycles. Before certain times, things change, heat rises, desire builds, stronger than usual, and when that builds up, it shows up in dreams. That's it, not spirits, not something from the outside, because if something from the other side really wanted to harm you, it wouldn't stop there. It would break you slowly, completely. People who've actually been possessed or targeted by something like that, they don't talk about pleasure. They talk about suffering, about losing control, about not feeling human anymore. That's the difference people miss. They have their own rules, and when they come near the living, it's rarely for anything good. You have to know the difference between being protected and being followed. Some say their dead relatives stay with them, watching over them, but then why keep an altar? Why hold rituals every year? Your family stays with you in the way they're meant to. That's not the same as being followed. When people talk about attachments, they mean something else. The ones who died badly, drowned, murdered, alone, no family. No one to remember them. Those are the ones that wander, the ones that look for someone to take their place. By now, you can start to see how it happens. First, something opens the door. But not everyone who sees death gets followed. It also depends on the person, their mind, their will. Not everyone can carry it, and no one should wish for it. The first stage started when Thuck was in 4th grade. He started spacing out, forgetting things. Not all the time, on and off, like something was interfering. He said it felt like there were too many things coming into his head at once. Thoughts, ideas, flashes. They'd come out of nowhere, and then disappear just as fast. Sometimes he'd say something, and right after, he couldn't remember what he'd just said. His schoolwork slipped behind the others, not because he was lazy. He tried, he really did. He studied hard. That's why his parents didn't suspect anything was wrong. Around that same time, he started wandering off, just drifting. He said once he meant to go to the field near his house. Somehow he ended up in the next village. He didn't even know how he got there. Another time he was helping his mom at the market. She told him to go home and grab a container he walked, and didn't stop until he reached the river embankment. Over 2 kilometers away, he said he heard that knocking sound right next to his ear. Knock, knock, slow and steady. And without thinking, he just followed it. His parents had to go find him, drag him back. Thought he was just messing around and scolded him for it. Back then, he was still a kid. The signs were vague, easy to miss. Most children get distracted like that. So he just grew up like nothing was wrong. People think once something touches you, it stays forever. That's not how it works, this kind of connection. It builds slowly. Whatever was following him, it wasn't anything all-powerful. It didn't control life and death. What mattered was the link between them. Between two normal people, if there's a connection, they stay tied to each other. Through anything with something like this, it's different. If it can't stay with you, it pulls you toward it instead. The second stage came 2 years later. By then, Thuck was in middle school. He had more control over his thoughts. The human brain, it can block things out, filter what doesn't belong, and for a while, he stopped reacting to whatever was around him. Like many kids who say they see things when they're young and then grow out of it. But the brain has its weak points at night, when everything relaxes. When your guard drops, that's when it gets in. That's when the insomnia started. Around 7th grade, he couldn't fall asleep anymore. And when he did, it wasn't deep. Around 2 in the morning, he'd jolt awake. Not by choice. In the dark, he heard it again. That same knocking sound. Knock, knock, mixed with whispers. Sometimes near, sometimes far. He couldn't make out the words. It felt like the sound was inside his head. It scared him. It wore him down most nights. He just stayed awake until morning. At first, he could push through it, but over time, it got worse. His head felt heavy, his nerves were shot, his health dropped fast. Dark circles sank deep under his eyes. He looked hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in days. Half there, half gone. His parents took him to the hospital. The doctors said it was puberty, hormones, gave him sedatives, something to balance his hormones. It helped him sleep, but then something else started. Sleep paralysis, nightmares, the same kind of dreams. Empty streets, places he knew, but no people. Or if there were, no faces, mostly children. Some dreams repeated over and over. He never described them fully, just said they always ended the same way. He'd be pushed, fall, then wake up suddenly. His whole body would jerk, like he'd actually hit the ground. The paralysis usually came near dawn. He'd think he was asleep. Then suddenly his body went heavy, couldn't move, couldn't feel his limbs, his eyes shut. But inside, they were moving, like something was watching. It felt like a wardrobe had fallen on his chest. He couldn't breathe, pain spreading across his body. And the worst part, that sound. Right next to his ear, knock, knock, steady, again and again. Once we figured out what was behind all this, it started getting to us too. By then, Thuck could clearly hear and see it. He said the voice sounded like a child. That explained the knocking he kept hearing. Then he told us something worse. The dorm was just a public building. No shrine, no one watching over it. Anything could come and go. And then he said it, calm, like it was nothing. The child was in the room with us. He couldn't see it clearly yet. Just a pale outline, gray-white, sometimes moving back and forth inside the room. That alone was enough to make our skin crawl. But no one pulled away from him. If anything, we felt worse for him. He'd been dealing with this alone for too long. I asked him straight. If he let it continue, it would mess him up for good. His mind wouldn't recover. Did he have a way out? He said he did. There was a temple in back then, Hamlong. People go there for things like this. He said he'd go and end it there. That place has a reputation. People say the land itself feels wrong, heavy, like something's pressed into it. The monk there, people say he can hold things down. Even the worst ones. What Thuck had wasn't the worst case. There's something worse. They call it Trung Tong when something that died comes back and takes someone from its own family. That temple is known for holding a lot of those, and other things too. People say even in the middle of summer, it still feels cold inside. If you ever deal with something like this, he said, go to a temple if you can. Go all the way to Hamlong, just standing in the yard. You feel it. Something cold moving through you, deep down to your bones. Makes your legs weak without you realizing it. Going to some random shaman, pointless, you lose money, and it only makes things worse. But to take that thing there, he had to connect with it first. For real, see it, talk to it. Only then could they deal with the right one. If it stayed vague, it could slip away, and everything would be for nothing. That's why he chose to live with the fear. If we hadn't noticed, he would have kept quiet. But once you know, you can't unknow it. It stays with you, even when you try to sleep. After that, he seemed a little more stable. Maybe because he was scared he'd lose his mind before making it to the temple. He started fearing sleep itself. Staying alert during the day was easy, but at night he couldn't handle it. So he asked us for help. Said he'd sleep on each of our beds, one night at a time. If he stayed alone, he'd black out and wouldn't even know when something took him. Truth is, we were all scared, but seeing him like that, we agreed to help. The first few nights were normal, nothing happened. But the night he slept on my bed, that's when it did. I was half asleep when I heard something, a low whisper, right by the wall. I cracked my eyes open. At some point, he had turned toward the wall. He wasn't asleep. He was mumbling, asking something, then answering himself. What is it? Then a bowl and chopsticks. Then again, how long? And 49 days. I panicked, reached over, shook him, asked what he was saying. He suddenly slapped my hand away, hard, didn't turn, didn't move, but his mouth kept going. Get out, the voice sharp, high, like a child. I froze, pulled my hand back right away, didn't dare move. My heart was pounding so loud I thought he'd hear it. I wanted to get off the bed, but I didn't if I moved. I didn't know what it would do next. One day, his family suddenly showed up at the dorm. His grandmother came, too. Everyone talked like nothing was wrong. No one mentioned the temple. Then they all left just like that. The school had already approved a 1-week leave for him. We thought it would turn into something big, but it didn't. It all happened quietly. When Thuck came back, we rushed him with questions, but he looked different, better. That dark look on his face was gone. He seemed lighter, more like himself again. He told us that when he asked to sleep with us before, he had already started communicating with it, but only unconsciously. He couldn't control it. That's why he needed someone nearby to listen, to tell him later what he said. Once he could hear it and speak back, seeing it wasn't far off. And sure enough, about a week later, he saw it clearly, still that gray-white shape, but now he could make out limbs. A face, it barely moved. Most of the time it just sat there, or curled into a corner, back turned. It didn't like being bothered, moody, demanding. It wanted things. Slept a lot, snapped for no reason, like a child, just not a normal one. As for that trip, he had only told his family quietly, mostly his grandmother. She picked the day. Because it was a child, its mood was unstable. If it knew they were taking it to the temple, it would never go, and after that, it would only get worse. The whole way there, he was barely conscious. Half awake, half gone, couldn't recognize anyone. His mind felt slow, heavy. Then suddenly he woke up just like that. His body felt light, like strength had finally come back. The pressure in his chest was gone, and that weight that had been sitting inside him for so long disappeared. He said it felt like he'd been pulled back. There was still a dull pain, like something had been pressing on him for too long, but his head was clear again. He was sitting in the main hall of Long Temple. The monk had just finished the ritual, sealing the spirit, still chanting in front of him. He listened to the last few bells and felt himself fully return. When they told him how long he'd been sitting there, he didn't believe it. For hours his legs were numb, couldn't even stand up, but it was over. The thing was sealed, the connection broken. His family took him home right after. The monk gave him simple advice: avoid killing, do good when you can, build some merit. Since then, nothing has bothered him again. But he still had to go to the hospital. The damage to his nerves didn't just go away. It's been 3 years now. This kind of thing isn't something to take lightly. If you think something's following you, you should at least understand what it is. These days, too many people profit from fear like this. If you just believe everything you hear, you lose more than money. Sometimes what was fine doesn't stay that way. The line between the living and the dead, it's closer than you think. You don't see it, but it's there. And if something ever notices you, before you notice it, there's not much you can do.